Hey everyone, a huge shout out again, this time to Jacob R, who also joins our Patreon at the Collector's Edition level. Jacob got himself a permanent spot on our end credits, his name on Game-Rave.com, behind the scenes fun, and an exclusive hand-numbered and hand-drawn postcard with a character of his choice. It's blurred out here in case he hasn't gotten it in the mail yet. I don't like ruining surprises. To find out how you can support your favorite creators, check out the Patreon logo at the end of the video. Let's get to it. And welcome back. I missed you all so much. Today's special Patreon edition episode of Game-Rave TV brings us into one of PlayStation's most beloved genres, role-playing games. Arguably the apex and golden age era of Japanese RPGs and the starting point for many of the RPG variants we know and love today. A few weeks ago, I asked Patreon members to give me their top 3 RPGs for the system, with no limits to the genre. It could be an American game, a true JRPG, a hybrid RPG, and so on. Unlike the Dreamcast episode, however, I wanted them to tell you why they loved their choices, in their own words. So after putting down a 9-way tie and making sure there was a healthy variety, here are 5 of the top PlayStation RPGs you should play as chosen by Game-Rave's Patreon members. First up is a title recommended by Jacob himself, choosing what could be the cornerstone of the genre, Final Fantasy VII. Per Jacob's own words, while I had played RPGs before, it wasn't until I played Final Fantasy VII that it became my favorite genre. The story, characters, music, and world stayed with me more than any other game I've played. He's not wrong. Regardless of what side your opinion is on, 7 did more for Sony and the genre here in the US than almost every other genre combined. Decades later, after the death of Aeris, the white-knuckle challenge of facing Ruby and Omega, all wrapped around 2 of the most iconic rivals in gaming history, have forged a demanding fanbase and lasting legacy. Any game reboot that causes an E3 crowd to stand up and cheer has to be doing something right. Gleefully bouncing into our next discussion slot is Dylan S. with another Squaresoft game, Brave Fencer Musashi. Musashi has fun, enjoyable characters, unique gameplay system with the fusion sword, quirky story, almost impossible to play without a smile on your face. Dylan nails it with his last comment. Brave Fencer Musashi is a game that may as well have been classified as a comedy RPG, but not in the way you think. There is humor in it, but rather it's the way the game presents everything in an over-the-top, exaggerated style. From word balloons to facial expressions to just the way you throw people at enemies, there is no subtlety in Brave Fencer Musashi, and I wouldn't have it any other way, and neither would they. Andrew N's strategy RPG choice fades into view with Final Fantasy Tactics. To quote the dad himself, "This game owned my life. I probably have played this game around 1,000 hours. I've done all kinds of crazy things in this game, like a solo Ramza run. I just love the strategy involved and maxing your classes." Classes are what made Tactics gameplay shine. Unlike the roaming adventures of standard RPGs, strategy RPGs let you only worry about your combat. If you've never played one, imagine a chessboard or a checkerboard where each of the pieces actually are their namesake. You have knights that can do specific moves, you have soldiers who favor frontal attacks, and so on. As you take turns moving around the board in a dance of cat and mouse, you'll need to understand the finer differences between an archer's range and a wizard's defenses. While I can't lay claim to any solo runs, I can personally attest to beating this game once without realizing that there was a second ring of classes. I also game sharked it because I couldn't understand why I was making so little progress. True story. Chris Jones brings in our 4th game with Jade Cocoon, an RPG that focuses on monster collecting. To quote him, "It's like a prequel to Pokemon! Even though the main mechanic is basically an elemental version of rock, paper, scissors, it's highly fun and addictive trying to capture all the minions in the game. Not to add, it even has an endless dungeon section after the base game, meaning the game can technically never end." It also doesn't hurt that Jade Cocoon had the help of Katsuyo Kondo behind it, who is probably most famous for his work with Studio Ghibli. If you're into collecting monsters, you can also check out the Monster Rancher series. Some of the honorable mentions that didn't make the cut for the video include Dragon Quest VII, Parasite Eve, Wild Arms, Legend of Dragoon, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and Final Fantasy VIII. To round out the group, I'll toss in my own contribution with Valkyrie Profile. When I first tried it, I was instantly blown away by the art style, the hand-drawn illustrations of the characters, and truth be told, something I only just now am coming to realize, variant in-game choices. The real beauty of Profile, however, is in its combat system. Rather than be straight menu-based, each character is a button on the controller, and you can then use them at will. Figure out timing in their animations, and you can start creating your own incredible attack chains and string combos, almost like a fighting game. Admittedly, the story can be a bit heavy-handed at times, and there's some confusion in how you build your characters, but Valkyrie Profile's combat system still holds a place in my heart all these years later, and it really hasn't been topped since. Now, if we're talking about snagging these wonderful beauties, yeah. Profile is averaging $100 right now, with Jade Cocoon bouncing all over the place. Brave Fencer Musashi is about a $30 game, but the Final Fantasy VII and Tactics are all reasonable depending on where you snag them. And that wraps up another episode. Site rebuilding is going smoothly with new page additions now being mixed in with the rebuilt assets. As of this taping, I'm going through the rebuilt pages alphabetically and I'm almost done with the Bs. It may not sound like much, but there's already 150 plus pages back on site out of the 600 or so posted before the scratch build came. Till I see you guys again in 2 weeks, go play games, have fun, stay safe, stay out of the sun, and have a great week. I'll see you then. Take care.